156. That's how many killer whales have been taken into captivity since 1961. 128 of those are now dead. Orcas are apex predators at the top of their food chain, and they're not hunted by any other animal except for a human. As of today, a total of 61 orcas are held in captivity. 28 of those are wild captured and 33 are captive born. They're all held throughout the 14 different marine mammal aquariums or parks in 8 different countries. There have been 30 miscarried or stillborn calves and at least 46 orca deaths at SeaWorld. The longest surviving orca is Corky, who was captured in 1969, and she gave birth to 7 offsprings in captivity, none of which survived. In my speech, I will discuss 3 main points: chlorine, which is used to keep the tank's water clean, and that's from SeaWorld's chlorine, the tanks, which are too small, and the deaths that have happened since 1991. Killer whales do not belong in captivity, regardless of the entertainment they provide. Visitors in marine mammal aquariums are being told that flopped dorsal fins is normal, yet it rarely occurs in the wild and almost always occurs in captivity. Wild orcas swim large distances daily, and they also dive down to great depth, and when they are unable to swim those distances or go to those depths, that is the main reason for their dorsal fin collapse. It might also be because they are fed an unnatural diet of dead thawed fish. Chlorine causes mucus to come out of their eyes. This is a story from former SeaWorld trainer John Hargrove. He left SeaWorld in 2012 and worked at both SeaWorld California and SeaWorld Texas. And he says, "There are dozens of documented reports of serious eye burns to trainers because there was an over-injection of chlorine in the pool. And as the well underwater foot pushed us through this cloud of intense chlorine, we had eye burns so severe we often couldn't even open our eyes. I was treated at least half a dozen times where I was. I was sent outside for treatment and could barely open my eyes because of the pain, and wasn't allowed to do water work again for 2 to 3 days, until they healed enough to swim again." That was just from a brief exposure. Imagine the whales having to swim through it. Mucus is secreted by the eyes of killer whales. It's unsure whether chlorine is the main cause of mucus being secreted, but it definitely provides some sort of protection against chlorine for the killer whales. The holding tanks are too small for the whales to be comfortable. This causes often fights to occur. In the wild, killer whales have strong family bonds that are not allowed in captivity, and a pod is what they're called. Pod usually consists of a mother, her adult son and daughters, and her daughter's offsprings. Orcas are not compatible or forced to live in tight quarters together, and that often results in fights. And in the wild, when fights occur, there's a lot of room to flee and hide, but in captivity, there's no room for them to flee and hide, so that often results in injuries and sometimes even death. It's a bathtub compared to the ocean. Orcas can swim up to 100 miles a day, and they're held in tanks that to them is the size of a bathtub. So right here, this right here in the circle is a vessel, and this right here is a path that one killer whale can make in a day, so about 100 miles. They would need to swim 1,208 laps around the perimeter of the tank, or 3,105 lanes back and forth at the longest part to make up what they could swim in the wild. And this right here is Tilikum. Tilikum is probably one of the most popular killer whales that was kept at SeaWorld. This is about how much distance Tilikum can travel and depth he could go to. So his maximum depth being 525 feet, and this is his tank right here, or was his tank at SeaWorld. The maximum depth of the tank is 35 feet, or 11 meters, and then 160 meters over here, which is a big difference. Tilikum alone has killed 3 of its trainers, and many more have been injured. Hence the 3 deaths since 1999. Dawn Brancho is probably one of the most popular trainers that was killed by Tilikum. She was a veteran animal trainer who was training at SeaWorld Florida when she was killed, and Tilikum, who was 29 at the time, pulled her by the upper arm, tossed her under his mouth, and pulled her underwater, as dozens of tourists looked on in horror. Her injuries consisted of a fractured neck, a broken jaw, and a dislocated elbow and knee. But Tilikum isn't the only one who has killed its trainers. A trainer was also killed by one of its whales. This was during a training session. 29-year-old Alexis Martinez was the one who died. There were also 7 other trainers present in the training session. But basically, Alexis was hit by Keto, who was a 14-year-old killer whale. And his death consisted of drowning, for he was under several minutes before they were able to get him back up. He had a violent death, which consisted of multiple cuts and bruises, the collapse of both lungs, fractures of the ribs and sternum, a lacerated liver, severely damaged vital organs, and puncture marks consistent with the teeth of an orca. The fundamental cause of his death was due to compression and crushing of the abdomen with injuries to the vital organs. So, in other words, at some point, Keto probably smashed into Alexis so hard that he caved in his chest. In conclusion, society needs to look around and realize that these amazing creatures belong in the wild, not in captivity. Chlorine is used to keep the tank's water clean, which results in flopped dorsal fins and mucus to come out of their eyes. The tanks are too small, which causes fights to occur between whales from different pods, and they're unable to swim in the bathtub they were trapped in. Telecom has also killed 3 of its trainers. Dom Rancho, which was a 40-year-old Orlando trainer. Kelty Byrne, she was a 21-year-old trainer at the now defunct Seal in the Pacific. And Daniel P. Dukes, he was a 27-year-old man who happened to be trespassing into SeaWorld Orlando after hours and was dragged in. And Keto, of course, has killed its trainer, Alexis Martinez. But it does not seem like these deaths are taken quite seriously, as I can still buy tickets today and go watch a killer whale show.